Hello there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Talk Music Talk with Boyce. I am Boyce, and this is my podcast you are listening to. Talk Music Talk is a weekly music interview podcast where I have long-form conversations with people connected to music from different genres and different backgrounds, established and emerging singers, singer-songwriters, music therapists, music journalists, and on this new episode, I had the pleasure of speaking to Mobley, singer, multi-instrumentalist. He is based in Austin. He has a forthcoming EP entitled Young and Dying in the Occident Supreme this year. Our conversation took place at the beginning of July, and he is one of the many musicians whose livelihood was affected by COVID-19. We talk about his aborted tour, his opinion on touring in general. We also talk about life in quarantine and being creative in lockdown. We discuss using your art, your platform to be political. And of course, we talk about the making of the EP, Young and Dying in the Occident Supreme, plus another album he has planned after that one comes out. And if you are listening to this, he has a visual album that he produced. It is out now. He collected 30 artists, curated 30 people, 15 musicians, 15 filmmakers. It is called A Home Unfamiliar, and all the proceeds will go to help people affected by COVID-19. After the conversation, you are going to hear a song from Young and Dying in the Occident Supreme. It is called Nobody's Favorite. Here it is, without further ado, my conversation with Mobley. Enjoy. You're in Austin, right?
That's correct.
How long have you been in Austin?
I've been in Austin about 10 years.
Oh, really? Okay. And how has life been in Austin over these past few months?
It has been a very wild time here. I think that in terms of the pandemic, the city government really seems to want to try to do the right thing and try to keep people safe. And we went into lockdown pretty early here, and so I appreciate that. But at the state level, it's just been our governor is very much a Trump guy, and so it's been very antipathetic to any kind of closing or masks or any of that until today. Today there was a statewide mask order. I don't know why it took this long for that to happen, but yeah. So it's been it's been intense. I think we have the fastest growing now. Austin has the fastest growing number of cases of COVID in the country. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's a wild time.
Yeah. How were you personally at the beginning of all of this? Like back in March when we didn't know that much.
Yeah. So I was actually, when everything really started getting real here, I was on the road. I had some shows in LA and New York that I was doing. I did the New York stuff, flew out to LA, and then I was actually getting ready to leave the hotel to go to the venue for the show in LA, and they were like, no, it's canceled. Yeah. And then basically every text and phone call I got from that was like, okay, your summer tour is canceled. Yeah. Okay, South by Southwest is canceled, blah, 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 blah. So, that was a tough pill to swallow at first, but, we came back here. I started isolating right away because I had been in 2 international airports and I didn't want to accidentally spread anything to anybody. But before that 2 weeks ended, then everybody was in lockdown. So I've basically been in lockdown since March 11th or something like that.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm doing fine. I'm very fortunate. I have a comfortable house to live in, and I can feed myself and all that. And also I make my records here in my home. So it hasn't really slowed me down creatively as far as the facilities that I need to do what I do. But, psychologically, internally, this is, I don't know, man, this is a wild, wild time to be alive.
I know, no. Someone always said it's like Twilight Zone. I'm like, long as it doesn't go into a Black Mirror, I think maybe I can handle it. Yeah, was that? I know a lot of creatives, like some people have been able to create doing this, and some people haven't. Was that a concern of yours at the beginning?
I was less worried about it at the beginning than I am now. Actually, at the beginning, I think I was just kind of. When you have something like this, you kind of have to try to psych yourself up for it. So it's like, no, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to push through, blah, 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 whatever. And that lasted for about a month. And I got a lot of really cool stuff done in that month. And then I think that burnout hit, and the weight of being at home every day and bad news every day and all that. Yeah. But I feel like I'm rebounding a little bit now, but yeah, there's no map for this. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's not like I can like call my parents and ask for advice on what they did when they were. Exactly.
So how far had you finished the album? You have the EP coming out.
Yeah, that was done. I had finished that at the end of last year, and we put out the first single probably 2 weeks before everything shut down.
Yeah.
And so now we're kind of in the process of hopefully we put it on pause. It was supposed to come out in May, but hopefully now we're in the process of figuring out how and when all that's coming out.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the EP. It's called Young and Dying in the Occident Supreme. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Right. I was trying to remember it. Like, talk about when did the genesis for it and all that.
Yeah. So the genesis of the record was late 2018. I was on tour in Australia, and I had just finished up a run of dates, and it had been probably 5 years since I'd had any real time off. And so I had the thought, well, while I'm down here, maybe I should try to travel in the region, because it's so much cheaper once you're over there than it is coming from over here. And so I just kind of randomly decided to go to Thailand, and the plan was to just spend 3 or 4 weeks there and really just not think about work or music or any of that stuff. So
why Thailand?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't have. It was really kind of random. I had some friends who had been there and said good things about it, but honestly, I don't have a good answer. It was pretty random. But so I went over there, and I didn't have any of my gear with me at all. And the first day we land in Bangkok, and I'm walking down the street, and I pass this music store, and there's a knockoff Telecaster on the wall, and it's like $50 or something ridiculous. And it's like, all right, well, I've never played a Telecaster. I've always kind of wondered what they're about. So I'll grab this, and then I'll just have it to fool around with. So I got the guitar, and we went down south to a pretty remote island, and we're basically staying on the beach. And I think just having the guitar, having a bunch of free time, and then also just having a new perspective on a lot of the things that were happening. The big story in the news then was the family separations and the treatment of asylum seekers at the southern border, and kind of getting to see that from an outside, non-American, non-Western perspective was really interesting. And the songs just started coming, and before I knew it, it was basically done. I pretty much tracked all the guitar there, like on the coffee table of this apartment in southern Thailand, and then came back and finished the record here in my living room in Austin. And yeah, that's that.
Yeah. How did you, besides writing, how did you spend the time in Thailand?
Man, I didn't do anything. I wrote a lot, like I said, but we were right on the beach, and we were pretty close to this little village where we could get food, and so we just slept in unreasonably late, and then got up, went out, got in the water, sat by the beach, rode around town. It was really nice. It was like the first time since I was a child that I really had nothing to do, no responsibilities that I needed to worry about. So I think that was really helpful in kind of getting the creative juices flowing, that freedom. But actually when we left, one of the people who I met and kind of had the kind of friendship you have with somebody you see a lot, but you don't necessarily know. There's this taxi driver who kind of drove us around the whole time we were there. And he was a real kind of punk rock guy. He had spiked dyed hair and studded bracelets and was always listening to rock music. So I was like, this guy would probably like a guitar. Yeah. Because I didn't want to fly back with it. So, in my broken tie and in his kind of fumbling English, we communicated this is the guitar. Do you want the guitar? So he has it now, and hopefully he's getting some songs out of it.
It makes me think about how, you being there, having 3-4 weeks, nothing to do, contrasted with now, and the difference between, I know it's this has an end time.
Yeah.
As opposed to now, we don't know when this is going to end. It just goes on and on.
Right.
The different mindset you have to have.
Yeah. And also even as, during the vacation, I had nothing to do. I also had definite plans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Come back, and then I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Mm-hmm. Part of what's so hard about this, especially as somebody who's their own boss and is in charge of their own career and all that. Mm-hmm. It's this is already such a precarious line of work, and there's already so much uncertainty. And then to just throw on top of it the situation where it's I can't make any plans. I have no idea how I'm going to bounce back from all of this. It's a really bad combination of having nothing to do, nothing that I need to do right now. There's no deadline. But at the same time, I absolutely feel like I need to be working because I don't want to be caught flat-footed when this ends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's an anxiety factory.
Yeah. Have you been thinking about ways of, once we come out of this, or however we come out of this, how your career will look, or direct how you will steer it?
I have no idea. I mean, it really feels like, especially if, if the people with the power don't start taking this seriously and really start making some interventions to slow this thing down. Mm-hmm. The venue, all these independent venues are we may not survive this. 90% of independent venues may be gone by the end of this. And if that happens, I don't know what being a live musician even means. On the other end of it. I have no idea. I think for a lot of us, we're just trying to focus on the one thing we can do during this time is try to be creative and try to kind of tell the stories that need telling right now, and just hope that we can turn that into a way to make a living later.
Because you had become a full-time musician, right?
Yeah.
And that's built largely on touring?
Oh, yeah. Almost in. Yeah.
Okay, so that would make you feel insecure about the future. How does one get to, a lot of people like to know, how does one get to become a full-time musician?
If I knew, I would write the book, and that would be how I made my living.
There's your new income stream.
Right. Speaking now as somebody who at least for a few years did it for a living and hopefully does going on in the future, and also as somebody who spent years on the outside of that looking in, being how do you make that happen? I have no clue. It's I tried to make music that I really liked. I tried to work on creating a live show that I thought was interesting. And then I just got extremely lucky. Like the right people listened and made phone calls, and I got connected with the other right people and was able to book gigs and so on and so on. But yeah, I have no clue. It's a completely opaque industry to me.
Did you, was that always the intention? Like, I just want to do this. I don't want to have to.
Definitely.
Day job.
Definitely. You know, before I was doing music full time, I was doing web development and like graphic design and stuff like that. And even with that, the whole reason I went into it was because I could do it from the road. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it was very much a thing where I would like work for 3 months, like 80-hour weeks for 3 months, and then take 3 months off to work on the record, and then go on tour and work 40-hour weeks while I was on tour. But that's not a sustainable way to live. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's too much. I don't think people are built to handle that much.
Do you like the touring life?
I really like playing shows. Okay. I really like playing shows. And I think something that people who haven't been on tour, or people who don't think about it deeply, and your question reflects that you're thinking about it deeply because it's an open question. You know, 95% of touring is not the show. Like, the show is maybe 30 or 45 minutes. The rest is loading gear and driving all day, and, you know, sleep deprivation and bad food. And so I'm not the type of person who really hangs out in bars, and I'm a real homebody. Yeah. I like hanging out with my dog and reading, writing, watching movies and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, the road is trying. The road is very trying, but I'd say it's worth it. You know, the thrill of getting to travel around the country and play shows for different audiences and stuff is worth it. But it's definitely work. Yeah. Definitely work.
Were you able to write on the road? Make music like on off time?
Yeah, sometimes. It would kind of depend on what my stress level was. You know, if things were going pretty well and I didn't feel the need to kind of be doing extra hustle stuff, then it was easier for me to write. And I've written some stuff I'm really proud of on the road, and like recorded in the car or in a hotel and all that. But, you know, sometimes the tour is just too hectic, and it's like I only got 3 hours of sleep and I have a 10-hour drive. As soon as I stop, I gotta load in, and so those are the tours where it's harder to write.
Yeah. So you had the songs when you went to Thailand. Had you had songs before that you weren't as interested in putting out, or was there something special about the Thailand songs?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I actually have a record basically done that I finished before I wrote this record, and it's going to be the next one that comes out after. And I'm really happy with it. But at the time when I was in Thailand, I didn't have a record deal at the time, and I put out records on my own. And for all the talk about you not needing a label and all that, like, the labels have their place. There are definitely benefits that depending on your situation. Like, if you're independently wealthy, good for you, and you don't need a label or a job. Like, but I'm not. And so I just thought there were real benefits that I could gain from connecting with the label. So basically, my plan was to write a demo record that I could then go shop to labels and try to get a deal. So that was the plan before going to Thailand. And then I just happened to write this record that I felt like I could shop, and we shopped it, and Last Gang Records really liked it. And we ended up signing with them. So, I have other songs, and I've even been playing them live in sets, and people have been asking me like, "Oh, when is such and such song going to come out?" Yeah. But hopefully we put this one out soon, and then I can get to the next one. But one step at a time.
Do you have any, like with all this time wanting to tweak the record that's already done? Like say for the EP and the other one?
Yeah. So I am, I'm very obsessive about details. You kind of have to be when you're making a record by yourself. There are just so many moving pieces that to keep track of it all, you have to be obsessive about it. But I kind of have to make deals with myself about this stuff where it's like, I could work on this forever. You know what I mean? I could keep working on this forever. So after I mastered it and turned it into the label, I was like, I'm not going to work on it again. And I listened to it and I hear things and it's like, oh, should I change that drum part? Should that be a little bit louder? But I kind of like the idea that it is a record of a moment in time. That's just where I was on that day when I finished it, and that's what it sounds like. So I'm trying to commit to that. We'll see if I stick. But that's my philosophy.
Okay. Is there a difference between these two records?
Oh, there's a massive difference. A massive difference. I the Young and Dying is a guitar record through and through. Really, it was the first time in years that I was writing songs on a guitar. And excuse me, and that was really exciting for me because that's what brought me to music. I grew up really, I listened to punk and ska and all that stuff, but guitar, like hearing a guitar through an amp cranked up loud in a live room is what made me excited about being a musician. So it was really fun and exciting to do that on this record. But the next record is much more indulgent of my like producer side. So there's a lot more sonic experimentation and song structures are a little less conventional. I wanted to flex certain muscles on Young and Dying and really focus on kind of traditional songcraft and really putting together these sturdy pop rock songs. But the next record is very much about deconstructing those ideas.
Okay. What was your prior like main songwriting instrument?
Really just, I would say the studio. My living room is my studio. Like I don't really have a living room. The place where it's supposed to be is my studio. So I work here every day. And there's a piano, there are a bunch of guitars, there's a drum kit, there's bass. And so there's just this kind of everything's ready. I don't really make demos anymore because so often when I was making demos in the past, I would get this performance, I would get this thing, and it would have this spark to it. And it's like, oh, there's something magical about that, but I got it on my phone and I can't use it. So I like everything's always plugged in and ready to go so that when that magical thing happens, it can make it on the record. So mostly, it's just been a matter of what's the first idea. Is the first idea a drum beat? Then I'll write this song on the drums. If it's the first idea a bass line, then I'll write the song on the bass, and just kind of following the ideas that way.
Okay. Did you do you have an intention before each album? Did you have your debut, the EP, and the one coming out? No. So the first the Fresh Lies, which technically isn't an album. But the idea with that was I was writing a bunch of songs and they were all love songs. They were all romantic, but they didn't feel like they were really describing any kind of relationship that I'd been in. So I was trying to figure out what was going on and I was kind of trying to look at them through all these different lenses. And eventually I realized these songs make perfect sense if it's me talking about my relationship with America, particularly as a black man. And so
Fresh Lies was kind of, I call it a song cycle because I found the idea of writing love songs that explore the different facets of my relationship with the country. I found that to be a really generative idea, but I didn't find it to be a small enough idea for an album. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I want this to be an ongoing series. So it's called Fresh Lies Volume 1 because the Fresh Lies song cycle series, I'm hoping, is something I, return to over and over again. But it's just too massive a project for me to boil down to an album. Because for me, an album is the albums I love the best are really discrete conceptual statements where it's like, I really got my hands around this idea and I presented it to you. And so, my plan, as far as that goes, this is an EP. The next one, will probably be an EP. And then, I think I'll probably just kind of follow the thread from that and see where it leads. I kind of always have to figure out my intention partway through.
Okay.
You kind of close your eyes and feel your way through it at first, and then like, oh well, I think I understand the shape of this. Let me take a guess at what it is. Mm-hmm. And then once I kind of take that guess and then make some educated choices, the concept usually kind of reveals itself in that way. I've never been one of those artists who can say, I'm going to make a record about X and then go out and do it. Okay. I just it feels more magical, more spiritual than that. Like I'm chasing it more than I'm leading it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you been working on ideas of music, reflecting on where we're at right now over these past few months?
Absolutely. These themes, the themes that are, the topic of conversation right now have always been really central to my music. Actually in April, the second single that was supposed to come out for Young and Dying is a song called James Crow, which is about racism. It's the idea being, that Jim Crow, dressed up, he wears different clothes. He's got a different haircut. He doesn't go by Jim anymore. He goes by James. Like a sophisticated, more covert version of racism. But yeah, I mean, this is what basically all my music is about. I'll occasionally do something else, but I find it way easier to write about the world and the social conditions that we find ourselves in than I do about how much I love somebody. Yeah.
Where does that come from? To use your art in that way.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, I've always been kind of, it doesn't show when I'm on stage and it doesn't show like in professional settings like this, but I've always been a pretty reserved person. If I'm not, being interviewed or on stage or whatever, I'm pretty quiet. And, I don't tend to wear my emotions on my sleeve. And I think the result of that is that all that energy gets channeled really, in a really concentrated way into artistic expression. I think the voice of my speakers and my songs is usually a pretty strident, forceful, opinionated, and verging on angry voice. And I think a lot of that is because I just find that music is really a powerful it's a powerful vector for introducing ideas to people. I've had conversations with people who like a particular song, and they'll be like, oh, I listen to that song all the time, and the other day it hit me that X or Y. And it's like, yes, perfect. That's exactly how I wanted that to work, because, it's hitting you on a level where you don't have those defenses built up. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, these, part of it too is just that these are the things that dominate my thought life. I think about these things all the time. I read about these things all the time. And to the extent that I'm interested in building any kind of platform, it's very much so that I can have more tools to try to bring more justice to the world. And so yeah, it's just, for me, it's just a real integral part of being an artist. Yeah.
Because it's interesting, because now we're seeing that becoming a part of people's platform as opposed to it always being there, which is fine. Like, you get to it when you get to it, right?
Yeah.
So what your take is on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely for years been, and when conversations with my friends are like, imagine if so-and-so would just say this.
Yeah.
Imagine if this person with this massive platform would just say this clearly true thing that we need people saying. So I'm glad that it's happening, but I hope that it's not happening simply because of social pressure.
Yeah.
I hope that people realize that they have a moral responsibility to do these things because, especially as somebody who's pretty shy in the rest of my life, when I get on a stage and when I'm the loudest person in the room, I feel very conscious of that. And I don't feel entitled to it. It's like anybody has as much right to be the loudest voice in the room as I do. And all of y'all are being quiet to hear what I have to say. That means if I'm going to take up this space, if I'm going to take up this time, if I'm going to take up this attention, then I have a responsibility to do something with it other than be like, love me, love me, love me. I'm so talented. You know what I mean? So hopefully that's what's happening. Hopefully there's a turn happening where people are like, oh, this platform is actually a responsibility, as opposed to just like, oh, if I don't post something right now, then people are going to be mad at me.
Yeah. Try to cancel me.
Right.
What has it been like, as a touring musician, person of color, you're traveling all over the world, like your experiences as that?
Man, definitely a mixed bag. Definitely a mixed bag. And I would say in most of the places that I've traveled throughout the rest of the world, it's actually been pretty good. I think there are particular things about the American cultural milieu and about the kind of systems, the political systems that shape life in this country that can make it pretty antagonistic toward people in my position. Like, for just as an example, I drive all around the country. I get pulled over all the time by the police. Pulled over constantly, and for nothing. I never get a ticket. It's always just some pretextual thing. They want me to get out of the car. They ask me how many times I've been arrested. They ask me, they want to run the license, blah, 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 blah. It's clearly pretextual. And then just, there's another thing in this country that I haven't found to be as pervasive in other countries, in that people in the United States really listen with their eyes. And so, being a black person, being a black artist in the kind of alternative indie rock space that's overwhelmingly white men, there's just all sorts of bull that you have to deal with. And I'm not saying these other places are perfect, because everywhere has its serious problems, but I just haven't found that to be the case to such a great extent. Like when I played in Germany, or when I played in France, or when I played in Canada, or even Australia, there was just and maybe it's because I was a foreigner, but there was just kind of I'm not the first person to say it. Like, lots of black artists and intellectuals went to France in the middle of the last century to kind of get away from the racism in the United States. So it's less that those places aren't racist, and more that, like, I'm really used to the particular flavor of racism here, and sometimes I get a different flavor. You know what I mean?
Like, that's a new taste.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's interesting because Tina Turner, who I'm a big Tina fan, she was saying how, you know, in America, you know, she was only, you know, besides Private Dancer, a big comeback, she was seen as primarily as an R&B singer, and that Americans did never really let that go. But in Europe, she was able to be seen as a rock singer. And
right.
And she always played to like bigger arenas and stuff in Europe than she ever did in America. Like, even at that level, she had to deal with that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any level. That's the thing about racism that's so... If you don't get it, it's such a... You have to really intellectually commit to the project of understanding it. It's everything. Like, it's in everything.
Yeah.
If you're talking about any kind of interaction between people, race and racism is a part of that. And so, yeah, like Tina Turner, a legend, you know, like eminently talented, just obviously like a superhero.
Yeah.
And even for her, you know?
Yeah, she still has to deal with it. So let's see. So you have a COVID-19 visual album project that's coming out July 17th?
That's right.
Yes, if you could talk about that.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm really excited about that. That was one of the first things that I started working on after the lockdown. I was just kind of trying to keep the creative juices flowing, and it occurred to me that since everything was getting canceled, a lot of people who might not be available for a project at other times would all be available at the same time. Yeah. And so I just started reaching out to a bunch of people, and I got a lot of really talented musicians and filmmakers together, and we made this visual album. And the idea came from the Exquisite Corpse game. I don't know if you've ever played it, but
no, I haven't.
So basically, there are a lot of different versions of it, but one version of it is like you take a piece of paper and let's say you fold it into 5 segments, and there are 5 people. I make a drawing on one segment, and then I fold most of it under so that you can just see the last bit of mine. Uh-huh. You create your piece, and on and on and on, and then you unfold it, and you have this crazy surreal drawing. So I basically was thinking, I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that with music or with film. So what I did is I wrote a piece of music, and then I handed the last chunk of that off to another musician, and they wrote a piece kind of based off the end of that. And then I took my piece and gave it to a filmmaker, and they made a piece based on that. And then I took the last piece of that filmmaker's work and handed that to another filmmaker, handed them the other piece of music, and so on. And then after a month, we had this visual album. The project's called A Home Unfamiliar, which was the prompt. And everybody really showed up. Shaky Graves is on it. Jim Eno from the band Spoon is on there. Jackie Vinson, Kelsey Wilson from Wild Child, just a bunch of really amazing, talented people. And we were able to bring in a bunch of sponsors such that the proceeds now are going to go to the Central Texas Food Bank and to this really cool project called the Dawa Fund, which is kind of a safety net for people of color who work in artistic industries, in the service sector, in medicine, and in other vulnerable fields, to kind of give them direct aid during these times. So yeah, I'm super excited about the project. Yeah, it's great. And it premieres on Alamo Drafthouse. Yep. Okay. It'll go on pre-sale on the 8th, which I think is next Wednesday. And then, it premieres on Alamo On Demand, which is ondemand.drafthouse.com on the 17th. Okay. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, there feels like there's no other time that you would have been able to get 30 artists together. Like, no way. The only time. Yeah, because to pull it together in a month, that's crazy. Yeah, and everybody only had 2 days to do their piece because you wanted to get it done in a month, so you have 15 time slots, and everybody just really showed up, and the level of production value on this is just it's out of this world.
Yeah.
People working with no crew, no producers, no help, just in their homes making really cool stuff. Yeah, people should definitely go check it out. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, cool, man. That's great you're doing it. So, where's the best place for people to keep up with you online? Check out what you're doing.
You can find basically all my stuff at mobleywho.com, MOBLEYWHO, and then at mobleywho on all the social media.
Okay, cool, man. Did I leave anything out?
No, that was a pretty comprehensive interview.
Come sunken, hiding half aware. Just point the magnet at me, man. Let's get some money, we can make it fair. I could be the call to change your life, 'cause you've been on the run since 95. You're nobody's favorite. You're nobody's favorite one. You're nobody's favorite. You're nobody's favorite one. You're nobody's favorite one. Say something cool, say something cool to keep it textual. Well, that's a mood, so what's the move? She's standing next to you. Holy water, holy shot of ginger ale. I've been drinking from wishing wells, hoping it'll change my life. It's not. You're nobody's favorite one. You're nobody's favorite. 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 I had a dream this was all lit up, but the lust is fading. I had a dream this was all I want, but the lust is waning. I had a dream this was all You're nobody's favorite one. You're nobody's favorite. You're nobody's favorite one. You're nobody's favorite. You're nobody's favorite one.
And that was Nobody's Favorite from Mobley. I hope you enjoyed his music. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. you will love the EP. I had a chance to hear an advanced listening of it. It is incredible. So when it comes out, you're going to love it. So make sure you keep in touch with him on all his social media networks. As for me, you can find me online several places. More podcast information at talkmusictalk.com. You can stream over 200 episodes from the back catalog featuring conversations with people from all different genres. I'm on social media at This Is Boyce. Especially follow me on Instagram because since March during the lockdown, I have been doing IG Live conversations with past guests. I have enjoyed that. I think you will too. Some special requests, please subscribe to the podcast. Several places, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and pretty much everywhere else. Just search for Talk Music Talk. You can also find the podcast on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/This Is Boyce. And there is also a free app wherever you like to get your apps. Again, just search for Talk Music Talk. And wherever you happen to listen to the podcast, please leave a 5-star rating and or review to help expose TMT to new listeners. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for listening. Until next time, and there will be a next time, this one's for you, Liz.